back to the Citadel GrayLine. My name is Kyle Weaver. I'm here with Jeff Hartsell from the Post and Courier. And, man, we have a great show today. We're going to talk about the Samford versus Western Carolina matchup, just to catch everybody up on what happened last week. I believe it was at Western Carolina.
It was.
And it was an offensive blowout. It was a close game, but the offensive showed up from both sides of the ball. So tell us a little bit about that, Jeff.
Yeah, Western Carolina won the game 38-34 and they only stopped Samford basically once in the game, but it was at the right time at the end of the game in the last 20 seconds. And, of course, Samford quarterback, I shortchanged him earlier. He threw for 500 yards, 516 yards. That was a school record and the third most in league history, and 4 touchdowns. His top target was Chris Schelling, who had 245 receiving yards. That ranks 10th in SoCon history. So quite a show from those guys. But then Western Carolina quarterback Tyree Adams was the offensive player of the week. He accounted for 464 yards. He threw for 312, and he ran for 152. So he's quite a dual threat athlete. So Western Carolina will be down the road for the Citadel. Right now they got to worry about stopping Samford and Devlin Hodges and his stable of receivers.
Right. Now, this is really going to be the test of how much are we missing D. Delaney.
Mm-hmm.
A guy like that, you could put D. Delaney on one of those top wide receivers and just kind of count them out or, minimize them as much as you can. So, this is going to be a big test for the Citadel secondary, who has performed great so far. They're very young, but with a few experienced guys, it's going to be a big test to see how they can match up against these guys who are, superstar wide receiver, superstar quarterback. Last year we did very well against Samford, stopping them, but there were some big plays, and that was a great game, like you said earlier.
As I recall, their quarterback really hurt the Citadel running the ball last year in that game. I don't have his figures right in front of me, but he was able to scramble and break contain a couple of times and make some big plays. But the Citadel secondary's got to keep those guys in front of them. You might see some zones, some big. What's the word I'm looking for? Give them a lot of room.
Right. Yeah. Just give them give them the 10-yard catches, but prevent the big 40-yard big plays, and that's
right. As you said earlier, another key will be the offense keeping the ball away from Devlin Hodges. A couple of 10-minute drives would do well for the Citadel on Saturday. But I think it's going to be a great game, and I hope it's a thriller like last year.
Right. And this is going to be, you said you talked to Jalen Williams this week. Guys like that, they're going to have to play big too, because when you're passing the ball, they're thinking sack. Sometimes you still got to stay in your lane. I think kind of last year, again, I'm not the most educated on the defensive line, but I think sometimes when you're getting into that 5-second pass rush, sometimes you don't get there right away. Sometimes you get out of your lane just to get to the quarterback, and when that happens, it opens up big lanes for the quarterback to run the ball for a first down. And when the secondary is all on big passes and preventing that, when the quarterback breaks the pocket, it's going to be a first down, 10-yard carry. So I think it's key for those D linemen like Jalen, who are younger D-line unit, to make sure that they're playing their gaps and kind of staying in gaps and all that. So.
I'm sure they're looking at a lot of film of last year's Samford game and talking about how to keep Devlin Hodges contained. Don't give up the edge. Don't give up the lanes, as you said. But nobody's really been able to run the ball on the Citadel yet. Of course, they haven't played any of the top teams yet.
Right.
So the run defense has been pretty stout, and I expect Samford to have to throw the ball a lot to score against the Citadel.
Yeah, and like we said earlier, the Citadel is going to definitely rely on their running attack and their offense to run the clock out. I mean, it's like playing Drew Brees in the NFL. You don't want him to have the ball. Aaron Rodgers, same thing. I was watching the Panthers Saints game last week, and they were talking about how the offense needed to run the clock a little bit more. You can't give these guys opportunities. I mean, coaches hate to say this, but they're offered scholarships too. So they're going to make big plays. It's going to happen, but I think the biggest difference from this coaching staff to my previous coaching staffs have been, hey, it's going to have a big play. It's not. It's going to happen, but it's how you recover from that big play. It's how you rebound from those big plays. It's how we learn from those big plays and make sure they don't happen over and over again to see if we're going to win the game.
Yeah, Hodges has thrown 172 passes in 4 games, so he's going to throw 40 45, 50 passes against the Citadel.
Right.
So that'll be the challenge for the Bulldogs defense.
Right. Well, we're excited to watch that. But when we come back, we're going to talk about the bye week, what it was like for the Bulldogs, and we're going to talk a little bit about Jalen Williams, who Jeff got to spend some time with, and I played with for 2 years. He actually lived with me for a month or so, him and his brother. So, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about him and his kind of journey and how he's kind of found a spot. So we'll be right back, and stick with us. Welcome back to the Citadel GrayLine. My name is Kyle Weaver. I'm an ex-Citadel football player. I'm here with Jeff Hartsell from the Post and Courier. And during this segment, we're going to talk about the bye week. Mm-hmm. As a player, one of the questions is from my parents a lot. I know they're watching is, what is bye week like? People are always trying to figure out what's different about it, how it works. Hey, do you get time off? All this. And I know you've written some articles about how they deserve a day off, and ended up getting a little bit more.
They actually got 4.
Right. So I was surprised when I read that they got 4 days off, but I guess they didn't have the bus rides and they didn't have the facilities. I'm sure if they had the facilities, they would have. But the bye week is a unique week, and I think the Citadel has perfected when to get the bye week. I really enjoy having the bye week right now because you come out of camp, you're kind of beat up, but you're ready for the first few games. You play the first few games, you get a little bit more beat up, and now you get that week right there, and then now you're you're in it for the rest of the season. I think it's a perfect time for a bye week.
So you like week 3, week 4 bye week?
Yeah, I thought it was great, because it gives you opportunities to see what you need to work on, where you need to improve, where you're good, what's up. It gets the coaches able to get film on other teams and say, hey, this is what they're looking like. They're not guessing on what Samford's looking like now. They know what Samford's going to play like. They know their team. They know their players. And now they're able to prepare for that and prepare for the rest of the season too, because those coaches just they're not looking ahead, but they're taking an extra week and they're kind of breaking it up, and they're spending a few hours on Western Carolina, Chattanooga, Wofford as well. So, I think it's a great time, and I think they perfected that definitely.
As a player, did you always know when the bye week was and were like, we're almost there, almost there? I mean, was that a big deal?
Obviously you got to keep focusing and keep motivated for the game at hand. But, yes, everybody enjoys college football, but, everybody in any profession enjoys their time off as well. So, camp is a month long. You don't leave campus but to go to church one time and to hand out some posters for media day or whatever. So, you definitely are like, looking forward to that because, everybody, all your friends are back in college. They're having a good time, and you're looking for, when can I see my buddies again? When can I kind of get loose? When can I not think about football? So, you're definitely thinking about it and, kind of looking of like, hey, that's when I can go and, spend time with my family or go to Carolina and see some buddies and see some other football teams, and just get away from the Citadel, get away from practice, break away from the routine of every week being the same, as well as get your body right. So
you still had 3 or 4 days of practice.
When I was there, back in the old day, we would get Sunday off. So we would come back, we'd play on Saturday. They typically give us that Sunday off. Then Monday's our normal off day.
Right.
We would typically meet on Mondays, but it would be like just for film and a workout. And then Tuesday, full pads. Wednesday, full pads. Thursdays would be a helmet, would be like a shoulder pad, so uppers, still kind of full speed. And then Friday, they might throw a workout in there for you, like early morning. If if you're on the travel team, you get an early morning workout in at 5 in the morning. You go to classes, and then you can leave. And then you get Saturday off, and then back to Sunday. You're back there at 3 o'clock, ready, time to go back into the game.
The major difference is having that Saturday to yourself.
Right. So you get a Friday and a Saturday. Really, like you can go home and have Friday night and Saturday night, and then drive back Sunday morning. So that's the big thing. And I know, I'm friends with a lot of the current players. I know a big group of them. They're all still together. Like they can't not be together. So there's a huge group of them up at Carolina. Watching that game, which was fun. I think then a few of them, went home, spent time with family. I think a few people went to Georgia. I think there was a Georgia game at home this week as well. So, they kind of break up and kind of just go back to their areas of comfort and hang out with some friends. But
Dom Allen told me he just wanted to chill at home.
Yeah.
He's got a new dog.
Yeah.
He spent time with his dog.
Man.
His dad wanted him to go down to the high school game back home, but he wasn't up for that.
We're going to talk about this later in the show, but these bus rides add up.
Yeah.
And these players don't want to be in a car. That's not how you want to spend your free time. But
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that later. But you got to spend some one-on-one time with Jalen Williams this week. You got to learn his story. I kind of know his story. Let's tell the viewers his story, kind of tell him about him and what you learned.
Well, Jalen is the new starter on the defensive line who's really made a big impact so far. He ranks among the league leaders in sacks and tackles for loss. He's a big kid, 6'2", 270. He's got one of the largest rear ends on the team. He's got to be a lot of strength in those legs and that butt. But he told me he got to the Citadel. He weighed about 220, 225, and Coach Donnell Boucher told him, we're going to put 50 pounds on you. He's like, no, Coach, I want to be fast.
Right, yeah.
So, but a lot of pizza and Chinese food was involved, he said. And he put on the weight. And then he said he had to learn how to move around in that new body of his. He's a lot bigger than he's used to, and he's gotten in shape. He's really worked hard in the weight room, and I think it sort of came together for him last spring. In spring practice, he started really making an impact, and of course, he earned a starting job I think he's a sophomore, maybe a redshirt sophomore, and has really done well so far this year. And of course, his brother Jordan is on the team as well. They are 6 months apart. Same dad, two moms, and Jalen actually moved in with Jordan during their high school days at Spring Valley because they wanted to be together so much and play together, and that's what they did, and it really turned out great for the both of them. It was actually Jordan who made the Shrine Bowl, and Jalen made the North-South All-Star team.
Right.
But at the Citadel, Jalen's gotten off to a little quicker start than Jordan. Right. Jordan's had to move around. Defense, offense. He was at receiver. Now he's back on defense, and I think he'll find his niche before his career's over.
I mean, both of those guys are great guys. First of all, both of those guys are extremely athletic. Jalen is, like a big body guy. Like you said, he's got the great frame for. Some people are big, but they don't have the frame for being big. He's built to be big. He weighs
270. Does not look it at all.
He's one of those guys, carries it very well. And both of these guys were players that we were excited about as upperclassmen when they came in. His brother Jordan, he is extremely fast. Very, very skinny guy, extremely fast, extremely athletic, one of those guys. And he is also has one of the highest squats on the team. And you don't think about that from a wide receiver, safety type guy. Just super, super strong guy. And, a few stories is when they were on scout team against guys like me, Samford, Isaiah Pinson, Nick Jeffries, Ryan Bednar, the offensive line, we kind of, Coach Boyd wants us to be tough guys. So, especially during practice when we're going against those scout team guys, we kind of bully them a little bit sometimes. But that Jordan had nothing to do with that one day. And I know Isaiah Pinson, who, embodies the tough guy.
Oh, yeah.
Offensive lineman. He actually got a good block on Jordan, and the next play, Jordan came back and kind of cheap shot at him, if you ask me, as an offensive lineman. But the defense will say it's fair. But and then it was on from there. But he's one of those guys. He doesn't put up with it. Neither of them do. And you have to have that attitude to be successful. Jordan's going to be successful. It's just a matter of time. And I'm excited for Jalen that he's getting that experience and to be able to sit under guys like Mitchell Jeter, Tevin Floyd, Joe Crochet, all those guys, John, and those guys who have experience. It's really starting to pay off now, and now he's one of the older guys in the meeting room. So I'm excited for him, and I think I'm glad that he's making the most of his opportunity.
Yeah, he talked a lot about Mitchell Jeter and how he taught him how important toughness was. at that position.
Yep.
So, and he mentioned Tevin Floyd and a lot of the older guys that he felt like really helped him along the way.
And when you're along like Kyleik Williams, I mean, he's not going to let his D line, be soft. At training camp, if the D line's getting beat up, Kyleik's the type of guy, he'll come get in their face, let them know, hey, you guys got to pick it up, and that's the role.
Jalen said his goal every play is to play like Kyleik does.
Yeah.
So that's really something, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you try to play like a safety. I mean, that's just crazy when you think from a physical mindset. The safety should be trying to play like the D lineman, not vice versa. Yeah. So that is pretty cool, and we're excited for you, Jalen, and keep it up. And when we get back, we're going to talk about how the Dogs match up with Samford. They haven't faced a team quite like Samford this year, so we're going to talk about how the Citadel defense against a big pass-happy offense is going to look, as well as how our offense matches up against their defense. So stick with us, and we'll be right back.
Kennesaw, West Alabama, Georgia, and Western Carolina.
So Facebook Live, you guys can see Jeff's got all the information right here. He just informed me that, and we'll talk about this later, but just kind of giving you guys the inside scoop. Samford has the worst total defense in the SoCon so far.
They're last in total defense and rushing defense.
Yeah.
They've played Kennesaw State, West Alabama, Georgia, and Western Carolina, which we know has a pretty good offense. So, I think, we can expect the Bulldogs to put some yards together. Will they turn the ball over? They can't do that.
Right.
Will they make other mistakes? They can't do that. Special teams, they spent a lot of time in the bye week cleaning up some special team stuff that went wrong against ETSU.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're getting back to the show, but Facebook Live, that's your little inside scoop. Welcome back to the Citadel GrayLine. My name is Kyle Weaver. I'm here with my co-host, Jeff Hartsell. We've been talking Citadel football. We've been talking about Samford, Western Carolina. We've been talking about Jalen Williams, a little bit of everything. And later in the show, we're going to talk about the keys for success against the Citadel. We're going to talk about how they match up against Western. And we're going to talk about, how the SoCon looks, top to bottom. It's looking strong, so we're going to get into that. But for right now, we're going to talk about how the Citadel offense and defense match up against the Samford team. And like we were just talking about on Facebook Live, you pointed out to me that the Samford defense is the worst defense in the SoCon total, and both overall as well as in rushing. I think that's going to be something that, obviously the Citadel was going to try to take advantage, even if they were the best. But something that the Citadel has to take advantage of, they have to tone in on, they have to control the ball, and to keep it away from the offense, which we've been talking about, how they're one of the best. So
Samford's defense giving up 532 yards a game. Total on rushing defense, 231 yards a game, 4.7 yards a carry. So you would figure the Citadel is going to be able to run the ball on Samford. The question is, will they turn it over too many times? Will they make the special teams mistakes that hurt them against ETSU? Coach Thompson said they spent a lot of time during the bye week trying to clean up some of the special teams things that went wrong against ETSU. So I think the Citadel is going to be able to run the ball on Samford. The question is, how many points will Samford be able to throw the ball for?
Right. So, and I think you mentioned, mistakes like turnovers. East Tennessee State, they're still a new program. They made the Citadel pay for it, and they made it a lot closer than it can be. But a team like Samford versus Citadel, there's a lot less room for error.
Right.
And I think, you look at the Citadel schedule, it was great that we had these teams up front for our young team. But, we're starting to get into the slates where the teams, the talent difference is very little. And like a team like Samford, you can't give that offense the ball on the 50-yard line. You just can't do it.
You can't count on stopping them if you give up good field position.
I think we're getting into that slate where that's going to be key, and it's going to pay off as well.
And the thing about Samford and quarterback Devlin Hodges, you can do everything right, and he can still make you pay by breaking contain, by scrambling like he did last year, even some design run plays.
Right.
So you can do everything right downfield and cover those receivers, those talented receivers, and still Devlin Hodges can make you pay. So it takes a total defensive effort, and as we've said over and over again, keeping the ball away from Hodges and giving the Citadel's defense a chance to catch their breath and collect themselves on the sideline will be key. I don't see any reason why the Citadel offense won't be able to hold on to the ball for a while against this defense unless they make the mistakes that we talked about.
Right. And, the defense has to stay fresh, and that's another thing, too. Mm-hmm. So, that's going to be the big key. On Facebook Live, we got a question from Paul saying, how does our pass rush do against Samford's throwing attack? Paul, the big thing on that is I would say we're going to match up well. Samford's going to have a bigger offensive line than we faced so far. I know that's the biggest difference when it seems like Samford, Chattanooga, now Walford's getting to that. But as an offensive lineman, when we play Samford, we play Chattanooga, like you go from guys who are, 300 or 290, 285, and you go to these guys who they're all 320. So, and I know it's the same way. Their offensive linemen are even bigger than the D linemen. So, that's going to be a big test. Like these D linemen who are young, they haven't seen these guys who are just huge. And, they don't have to be the most talented guys in the world. Just getting around a body like that is tough. And that's what you kind of see at the bigger levels is these guys who are very, very big with long arms. It's tough. So early in the game, maybe that's going to have to be an adjustment that the D lineman and the defense will have to make. But, like I said, I think our physical style of play is going to beat those guys up, and we're just going to stick with it. So looking early in the game, I would say, hey, we might not have a big pass rush. But, again, we do have some great pass rushers. And then later in the game, I definitely, second half, I definitely could see us wearing them out and getting to the quarterback. And, we're also getting bigger as a program, too. Winning has allowed us to do that. I know when I was playing, I was one of the bigger guys at 285 was the biggest I ever played at. So, we were all, smaller guys, but now you look at our offensive line, you got Tyler Davis at 285, 290, you got Drew McIntyre, he's up there too, and then you got these freshmen who come in, they're huge guys. So, I think that difference is going to, separate a little bit, but we'll see. And it's definitely going to be an interesting test, and we'll have to see. So, I know Eric Hubbs talking about the defense. Shout out to Russell Hubbs, number 55. He's a good guy, good player, fun guy to be around. So, just want to give a shout out to your son. Well,
it's early yet, and the Citadels played Newberry, PC, and ETSU, but the Dogs do rank number one in pass defense in the league and number one in pass defense efficiency. So on paper, anyway, it looks like a good matchup for the Citadel's defense. But as you mentioned, it'll be a big test for Khalid Williams and those guys in the secondary and for the defensive line to see if they can get some pressure on Devlin Hodges.
Yeah, this is definitely a step up in competition from what we faced so far. So, it's going to be a test. And, this is a young team, so – the biggest thing is from an ex-player is just be loyal to these guys, no matter what happens, be supportive. And I know you guys will be, especially the guys listening and watching this show.
What do you recall about the game 2 years ago at Samford when the Citadel just destroyed?
Man, that game was awesome. That was a game where, we were prepared for it to be a very, very tight one. But for it to turn out like it did, that was a more like, kind of like as a program, we're here. We're making a statement
game.
To be a team of a caliber of Samford that bad was a statement. It was just one of those games where I'll never it was just fun. It just didn't seem like we could do anything wrong.
I think Dom Allen had a big rushing game.
I think everything went right in that game. And those D linemen, like I was just talking about, Miles Pierce's brother was there. He was an NFL prospect, SoCon preseason defensive player of the year. He's 340 pounds, and he's quick. And, I'm probably 270 at the time. Sam's probably 270. Ryan Bednar, probably, 280. And, we were way undermatched size-wise. But, it was just one of those things where the coaches came up with a great game plan that they didn't see coming. It's kind of like that Wofford game as well. When we blew Wofford out, the coaches have a lot to do with those blowouts, with how we prepare for those games. And both of those were just great game plans that the other side didn't see coming and they just couldn't adjust for. So, that was fun.
Yep.
But we're going to get to some more Facebook Live questions later in the show. We'll kind of keep doing that at the end of each segment just so we don't go over our time. But when we get back, we're going to talk about how the SoCon's looking, and we're just going to talk about how deep it is. And then we'll go into, I know we have a question about how did the Citadel drop in ranking, so we're going to answer that question, and we'll go from there. But we'll be right back. Joe, how are you?
How are you? Good to see you.
Yeah, I did too. Well, I saw him Monday, actually. Just quick, thank you for Joe for showing up. I know he's a loyal fan. I know a lot of you guys know him. So, guys, please come out, join us. We'd love to have you guys. It's a good time out here. Great food at the Charleston Sports Pub. Another little plug is if you guys want to get involved with the show, we do have a few spots left for sponsorships. We do have cool posters that you can get on. I'll mention you guys during the shows. I think we get up to 2,000 views sometimes. So, if you guys want to get involved with that, just let us know. Reach out to us on our page. And if not, just keep enjoying the show. We enjoy doing this, and, we love talking about Citadel football. So we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Citadel GrayLine. My name is Kyle Weaver, offensive lineman for the Citadel from 2012 to 2017. So 5 years, got my business degree from the Citadel. Went back for my 5th year. During that time, got my MBA. Also was fortunate to play for Coach Higgins, Coach Houston, as well as Coach Thompson. So I kind of got that experience from all those guys. So I hope to bring you guys some insight on that, but mainly about the guys playing. I also have tons of friends that are still on there. Play with most of these guys. So and then we have the guy who is probably one of the most involved outside people of the Citadel football is Jeff Hartsell from the Post and Courier. And he's very knowledgeable, and he's sharing some great knowledge with me and you. So hopefully you guys will keep watching and enjoy this. So, Jeff, we're going to talk about how deep the SoCon's looking. You wrote an article on this week, man, that was really insightful for me to see that teams like Walford, who from playing them last year, I thought Walford was going to be one of those teams that just blew everybody out. They've only won by, what you say, a total of 4 points in 2 SoCon games?
They've won 3 games overall by a total of 5 points and 2 league games by 2 points. And then you go down to the bottom of the standings, Mercer, they've lost 2 games in the league by a total of 4 points. So there's been 6 league games so far. It's early in the season, obviously. But 5 of them have been decided by an average of a field goal. So every game is coming down to 1 possession.
And that's exciting to see. The SoCon, when I came in, was a dominant force. We had App State, Georgia Southern, all those teams. And, we were the SEC, no doubt, of Division I AA. We kind of lost that. And now we're sort of taught as a Premier League, but, whatever. And then last year we kind of took a step up. And, I think we're getting back to it. We're getting back to just every game is grueling. Every game is tough. Every team is good. You look at the locations of these teams. Recruiting is not hard to get players to these places. So
one thing Britton Thompson mentioned the other day, and I think it's probably correct, is even before App State and Georgia Southern officially went FBS, they started looking for a different level recruit.
Right.
In preparation for moving up. And that kind of opened things up a little bit for the rest of the league to get that next level recruit that maybe would have gone to App State or Georgia Southern. And it's wide open. If I was a coach, I'd be a little nervous about how the league is looking this year. It's wide open. Every game is coming down to 1 possession, except for VMI. Those guys are really struggling right now. They lost 63-7 to Chattanooga last week. But other than that, you could lose any week.
Right. I know this coaching staff, they love that. I mean, when I say they love that, they're always looking for the challenge. They don't want the easy way. They don't want the easy task. They want every week to build our team, which I think this slate is going to do. But, of course, they wish they had some easy games in there, I'm sure. But, it's just amazing. You look at, like, Western Carolina beating Samford last week. We've talked a little bit about that. Western Carolina is one of those teams, man, where when they're good, they're good. And, they went toe-to-toe with one of the best offenses in the conference, and now everybody has to be ready for that game. Walford, I think, especially for a Citadel fan, has to be, a star on the schedule. That's definitely a big rivalry for us. We don't have the best record against them in the last 30 years. So, but they're winning close games. I thought I thought they would be a little bit more ahead. Chattanooga, has 3 tough losses against 3 great teams.
Without their all-conference quarterback who was suspended for the first 4 games. They get him back now after this, Alejandro Benefield. And so that can only help the Mocs going forward.
And Chattanooga now, because they have these losses, they're probably not going to get into the playoffs without the bid. So, you want to talk about motivation, especially those guys. In Chattanooga, they expect to be in the playoffs. So,
and then Furman, had struggled early, losing some close games. They played NC State. They pounded Colgate last week, and I think that team is coming on as they learn their new offense, which looks a lot like the Citadels.
Right.
So I think Furman will be a team that gets better over the course of the season.
They have the defensive staff from Charleston Southern, which, they go way back to D2 against our coaches when they were at
Lenore-Ryan.
They were at North Greenville when our coaches were at Lenore-Ryan. So, talk about a matchup there. Those guys, they know our triple. So,
and then poor old Bobby Lamb at Mercer. He has lost so many close games since coming in the league. Mercer will start winning some of those games sooner or later.
Right.
You just hope it's not against your team.
And it's one of those, they're still getting going as a program. They've done a great job of being very, very competitive, just like ETSU seems to be doing early in the program. But, if you sit down and you schedule out, like, hey, we're building a program, when are we really going to be competitive? They're still getting into those years. So I think they're still ahead of schedule. And, they're going to win games, like I said.
They've certainly played the Citadel tough over the years.
And thankfully they beat Chattanooga my redshirt junior year, and that's how we got the share of the title. So, that's tough. But we're going to go to a question on Facebook Live of how did the Citadel go down in rankings over the bye week? And
well, they went up in the media poll, which I won't take any credit for. and but they went down in the coaches poll a couple spots. And I don't know what the teams ahead of them did. I don't follow the poll that closely, but I can only think that some people thought beating ETSU by a touchdown was not that impressive. I think if you pay closer attention, you'll see that ETSU is really coming along.
Right.
And the Citadel was coming off a couple of tough situations with travel and the death of Mitchell Jeter. I do not think the Bulldogs were at their best, especially in the first half of that game. So it turned out a little closer than maybe people expected.
Right. I mean, I don't blame those guys. I don't blame people for, saying, hey, ETSU wasn't a blowout win. But I don't understand how that didn't affect them in the next week's polls where, sometimes in the bye weeks you're going to have teams that, say you're number 10, teams 11 and 12 are going to have great wins against great teams. So that's probably what happened here. I don't know, but that's probably what happened because, it just happens. But, I mean, hey, those polls truly do not mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think, we really enjoy looking into those polls, but they don't mean anything. The first goal of every team is win the SoCon. And if you win that, you control everything.
They don't mean anything, but I think later in the season they start to mean something. They kind of shape the thinking of the playoff committee, right? Like who's good and who's not. Same thing at the FBS level when they pick the 4 teams. The polls kind of shape their thinking of who's good and who's not. So you want to be up there as high as you can heading into the playoff selection.
Right, I agree with that, but there's going to be a lot of things that, a lot of people's opinions are going to change. Like, hey, if we go blow out Samford, if we go blow out, these other teams, they're going to forget about that ETSU close win. So, it's right now, I would say it means less than whatever.
Exactly.
Because, there's some teams up there who, really haven't played anybody and that might be us that haven't really played anybody, and the true tests are coming later. So people haven't earned their spots yet. So
and you know how coaches are. This could be good for Brent Thompson. Hey, they dropped you in the polls.
Right.
No respect. Let's go. Let's show these guys.
Yeah. And a question from Joseph. We have, which is more surprising from the past weekend, Western's win over Samford or ETSU's win over Mercer?
I think they're both surprising.
Yeah.
They surprised me.
Right.
I think ETSU and Mercer, I thought that would be a close game. I did not know if Western Carolina could hang with Samford, but they did, and finally made a stop late in the game. Western's one of those teams that always scares you. They have athletes, and you wonder when they're going to put it all together.
Right. Yeah, it's all about chemistry for those guys.
Yeah.
And that's something the Citadel has, and a lot of teams don't. But if I'm going to have to answer that question, Joseph, I'm going to take the ETSU win over Mercer because, coming off of a tough loss to the Citadel, a program like that, they view that as a win. And you have to view that as a win because you have to have positives in your season. And yes, they're disappointed they lost, but it's tough as a coach to motivate. Sometimes your team gets down. They're saying, oh, man, or this. So, and then, Mercer, from my experience, Mercer's one of the best, a great team. And, so for them to win and do that, I think
and you have to look
tough.
at it like these are 2 startup programs, right? And Mercer got a head start on ETSU, and then they lost to ETSU. That can't be good.
Right.
That can't feel good in Macon.
And Western's always been competitive. They've always had the playmakers, and they're gonna make some plays. More plays than some teams, more weak. So, Samford defense, like we said over here earlier, is one of the worst in the SoCon, total and rushing. So, they're going to have to outscore teams sometimes, and I guess Western just did a good enough job of stopping them. Guys, keep the questions coming. We're loving it.
That's great.
Thank you for your involvement. So we're going to come back. When we come back, we're going to talk about, let's see here. We're going to talk about long bus rides. Okay. We're going to kind of go back to that and hit on that. We'd love to answer some more questions. And talk about that, and then we're going to wrap it up today. So please get your questions in. We'd love to answer them. So we'll be right back. Thanks, guys. Thanks for staying with us. Facebook Live. We're just going to order our food here at the Charleston Sports Pub. Something we look forward to every week. So I know I get the bacon chicken Alfredo grilled, and it's very good. I look forward to it.
I get the grilled chicken salad. I really like it.
So, I mean, guys, encourage you guys to come out here. They have a great atmosphere, just a great sports bar, and very family-friendly at the same time. They got some cool games. They got a little arcade over there. Great location in Mount Pleasant, and, I think they do some catering for tailgates as well. And, my little plug for my business would be Chick-fil-A North Mount Pleasant. We do catering as well, and I am in charge of that. So please reach out if you guys need any catering for the next few home games, which we're all excited for. So we'll be right back. Just let us get these orders in real fast. Welcome back to our last segment of the Citadel GrayLine radio show. My name is Kyle Weaver. I'm here with my co-host, Jeff Hartsell. We've been talking a lot about just this week's coming off the bye week, a lot of random things and good stuff and good material. So thanks for being with us, Jeff. This last segment, we're going to talk about the traveling situation of the Citadel Bulldogs. And, while we're talking about this is Samford is another long drive. It is, one of those drives where if I think we did it right, we might have broke it up into 2 days when I was there, which I don't know if they'll do this year because,
I'm not sure
money's
either.
a little tight because of all this other stuff. But it's a tough, long bus ride to Samford. And and then on top of that, they've already been on the road to a home game that should have been no bus ride. Now they're going to they went to PC and then they went all the way up to Johnson to ETSU again. The next week they go back up to ETSU.
This is the itinerary as best as I could put it together. The week of the PC and ETSU game, They went from Charleston to Greenville to the hotel, down to Clinton for the game, up to Johnson City for another hotel, down to the camp Lookup Lodge, then over to Clemson to practice, back to the lodge, then back to Charleston on Tuesday, then back to Johnson City that Friday, and then back to Charleston after the game. Man. Holy cow.
Yeah, that is a lot of time together. I love all my teammates, and I really enjoy it, and that's what I miss the most about it. Everybody keeps asking, do you miss football? You miss football. Well, that's what I miss the most about it, just, being on having those bus rides and being with the guys. But that's a lot of time, and, I know those guys are enjoying moments of it, but at the same time, when you're on a bus next to these people and, sometimes you're just like, let me get out of here and, get back to my apartment or, my barracks or whatever stage of the cadet life they're in.
Right.
But it's tough. And, I know leg-wise, your legs getting a routine of, hey, I'm having practice every day, and I'm getting this, and I'm getting to be in the dog pound, which is one of the best facilities ever. So, you don't have that, luxury of going in and being able to stretch and roll out and get the trainers to look at you and stretch you and, do treatment. Treatment is huge. That's one of the big things. You can't do treatment from a hotel to the same extent as you can from the Citadel. So
I know the Citadel gets the best buses they can. What's it like? Yeah. Are you able to sleep on those things? Or
I mean, it all goes back to just, can you sleep on a bus? So if I had a busy week, then, I could sleep. But, my knobs are out like that. And it's funny because some of the knobs have to share seats together, and sometimes really only two people sleeping.
So the veteran guys, you get one.
You get one seat to yourself, and as you go more and more into your cadet life, you get more and more sleep. So, in my 5th year, I rarely slept on the bus because I was getting a good amount of sleep. So. But the buses are, they're nice, but at the same time, when you're 285 pounds and you're sitting on a bus that are built for the average person, they kind of have those, curves and everything. I mean, it's not comfortable. And, it's fine, when you're excited to play the game. On the bus ride back, it gets tiring. And then, I can only imagine the bus ride from PC to Johnson City, knowing that you're just going for a hotel and then coming right back. I'm not questioning the decision to do that. I'm not questioning anything. I'm just saying from a player's view, I know that's not fun, And, that's something that from the high school to college level, that's the biggest difference is how much time you spend traveling. I mean, it's a full operation. And I know it's tough on people like Andy Clausen who have to schedule all this, and then, the donors and the Citadel alumni who are very gracious, but someone has to pay for it too. And, we stayed at Lookup Lodge, which was great to us, but that costs money. And, to put up 100+ people in any facility is going to cost you.
Jim Center said it costs $14,000 to $15,000 a day to keep the team on the road. I'm not sure. I think that's at a hotel, not at Lookup Lodge necessarily. Right. But still a lot of money. Do you guys ride offense and defense?
Yeah. So when we go on away trips, we have 3 buses. So we have an offensive bus, a defensive bus, and a special teams and kind of third string freshman bus. If you're in the 2 deep on offense, you're going to be on offensive bus. And, it was funny when Coach Houston was our coach, the defense always got the nicest bus. And they were always bus 1, and offense was bus 2. And then when Coach Thompson got the job, well, the offense was thrilled because now we would get the nicer buses. So we were bus 1. So,
so there's a difference in the buses.
Well, I mean, you're not going to have 3 buses that are the same. And, these charters, I mean, they're going to have other buses in and out. So,
So is the 13 special? They're on a yellow school bus.
Sometimes they got nice buses too. Nicer buses than some. So every week is different. So you kind of get on the bus, you look around, you're like, yes, I like this bus.
Is that because are you actually talking and going over stuff, or during the trip?
So if we wanted to, yes. Again, that's kind of our time away. Now there are times like when the first few years the coaching staff was here and we were younger as offensive linemen, Coach Boyd would give us tests, and he would basically give us a piece of paper like this and have 6 boxes and then have like the little X's and O's, and it would say draw out, whatever play, and you'd have to draw where everybody goes. And to be honest, when you're new to a program, you don't know where the wide receiver's going. You don't know. Sometimes you playing guard, you don't know where the tackle's going. You know your assignment and what you're doing, but you don't know that. So we would get together and we would be like, okay, hey, what are you doing here? What's your rule? And you learn. And I know those guys. I know I've seen them. They're actually back to the test this year because they have so many young guys. So it's just something to get those guys thinking about it. But my senior year, redshirt's junior year and redshirt senior year, we didn't have a test. And, that was because we earned it. We proved that we knew our assignments. We rarely had an assignment mess up. And if it did, it was just because we got confused, not because we didn't know our rules. But, we had, the veteran the offensive line like Ryan Bednar, Sam Fry, Isaiah Pinson, Nick Jeffries. So Tyler Davis was in there. But Tyler was the only one who was young, so we could kind of help him out. Drew McIntyre, we could help him out. And so that's kind of what you're doing. A lot of the guys for this bus ride, I guarantee they brought Xboxes and TVs, and there's outlets on the bus. They got the Xbox. They're competing against each other on that. So, they find ways to make it fun. And but I guarantee there's not a lot of schoolwork getting done, it gets old pretty fast. So,
yeah. The SoCon is a bus league. That's how it is. Did you fly anywhere during your career?
No, we did not, and I wish we did. But I know the guys talked about. I said I wish I did, and I asked people about it. When I was younger, dude, I was going to Arizona. I mean, they went to Arizona.
Right.
I was like, how was it? And they said it was awful. Because they said, yeah, flying's cool, but they played a night game in Arizona, and then they had to get back on the plane. And they didn't get back here, even though they flew to about 4 o'clock in the morning. Then they had practice at 3 in the afternoon, and then you're right back to it. So you're like, oh yeah, it's nice that you get to go out and play a team on the out there, but there's a lot of work to it too. You're flying for a reason, So let's see if we have any more questions. Thanks everybody for watching. We have a good bit of views already, and we'll continue to get more. So it doesn't look like we have any more questions, but thank you for everybody who tuned in today and that will tune in. We're excited to have this show. I think it was a good one, and if you guys ever have any questions, let us know. Reach out to us. Want to say a special thank you to John Rawl, who is the mind behind it all, and he kind of walked me through some technical difficulties we had last week, so hopefully that's fixed. I want to thank Jeff for stepping in for another show. We want to thank our offensive coordinator, Joel Thompson, who has been involved in the show and is helping John out a lot. And we want to thank everybody who's joining our page and sharing these posts because it's we're growing as a page and as a radio show, so we're excited. We want to thank you to our radio stations for putting us out there, and just thank you for that and the support we have. And we want to thank Charleston Sports Pub for having us out today. So we look forward to seeing you guys next week. Go Dogs! Good luck against Samford, and we'll be back next week with some more information. So see you guys then. Thanks.